Welcome to the Bruins Brenda's Podcast, Season 2, Episode 44. Patrice Bergeron retires with Maddie and Smitty, brought to you on the Inside the Rink Podcast Network. InsideTheRink.com is your one-stop shop for all your NHL and ECHL news, insight, and analysis. Follow on Twitter at inside_the_rink and download the Inside the Rink app to play our podcast on our podcast page and subscribe to Inside the Rink's YouTube page to watch our episodes. Smitty will tell you how to sign up for ESPN Plus.
Yeah, you can sign up for ESPN Plus by going to the Inside the Rink website. Go to insidetherink.com/ESPN and sign up today. I have ESPN Plus, and I love all the Major League Baseball, soccer, college sports, UFC, and much, much more. So sign up for ESPN Plus at insidetherink.com/ESPN.
Well, the time has come, and Patrice Bergeron has retired a day after his 38th birthday. Video of goodbyes were from the breakup day, evidently, as everybody was wearing the same clothing. Coincidence? I think not. So it looks as though he was at least preparing for it right after the end of the season, and he makes a decision now toward the end of July. And, it's definitely now an end of an era.
It is an end of an era. It's a sad day. There really wasn't a guy on the Bruins or in this town, for that matter, a professional athlete that was respected more than Patrice Bergeron, that cared more about his teammates and about the community than Patrice Bergeron. And I have some of the comments from some of the players here, and we'll just go through them real quick. First, David Pasternak says, Bergie's just an unbelievable human being. It's been a pleasure to learn from him. It's not always about the hockey, but it's about the humanity as well. He's a big part of a lot of guys growing up and being good people. I can't thank him enough for everything he has done for me. I'm very grateful to know him as a friend and a teammate.
Yeah, I mean, it was really difficult for Marchand, of course, because they played together for many, many years, 12 years. And won a cup together, played on the same line for so many years. And Marchand's getting toward the end, as we've talked about, where he may be done in 2 years as well. So it all sort of comes together, I think, for a guy like Marchand when Bergeron and Krejci both probably moving on.
Yeah, so Marchand says, I can say from the bottom of my heart, I would not be the player or person I am today if I hadn't had the opportunity to meet him and play with him. What started as just teammates and line mates turned into an incredible friendship and a lifelong bond. The journey that we took together, we got to do something very special that very few people get to do in their careers. I'm so grateful for the opportunity.
So. Yeah, I mean, it's, I thought McAvoy's comments were interesting when he talked about the culture and how he was going to try to move on with it and so forth. And, McAvoy seemed more talking about sort of the human side of Bergeron and what it means for the room. And it started with Chara in 2006, changing the culture, having rookies be treated the same as veterans. And there were a lot of things that they did to sort of repair what had been kind of broken after Ray Bourque retired.
Yeah, so Charlie McAvoy says, Bergie is just one of a kind, one in a million, off the ice, on the ice, a true gentleman. He works his butt off in everything he does. He's totally committed in everything he's ever done. The way that he carries himself, he does it all the right way. What an incredible person that I've been able to learn from.
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, I mean, he had such an effect on everybody.
Yeah, he really does, and he did, and he had an effect on all his teammates. There was other quotes from Cam Neely and Don Sweeney and Charlie Coyle, and obviously Brandon Carlo. The team put out a video with Hampus Lindholm and Allmark, Swayman. I mean, really, he's had an effect on everyone that he's come across, and even guys in the league that aren't on his team. There was messages from Sidney Crosby and PK Subban, and just numerous guys that he's played against. So he really has touched not only his team, but really the entire NHL over basically 20 years.
Yeah, it's really something when you can be respected by the whole league. And there were times, there were a couple of times here or there, but guys never really took liberties with him. Like he was just a guy that everybody just kind of respected. he really didn't touch Bergeron. He was kind of the exception, and he had a great effect on not only the league and the team, but with Team Canada, he had some great moments with them, and his Canadian teammates on those teams. He was revered by all of them as well. So, we're sad to see Patrice Bergeron go. I think, in my opinion, I think it's the right time, because I do think they need to move on and start sort of the next core of this organization. So I was a little bit surprised. I thought he'd come back for the centennial year. I thought he'd come back one more time. I thought, in the back of my mind, that he would play again, because, arguably and ironically, he might have had the worst three-game stretch of his career at the end of last season. And it was a total irony. It's not a reflection on him. He was hurt and so forth. Yeah. But I just thought that maybe he'd come back, or even sign and go on long-term IR for a couple of months and come back later, do one of those things. And maybe take a couple of months off in the beginning of the year and just finish it out. But he's decided, and he looked pretty content. I mean, he was definitely sad, you could tell, but he was at peace, you could tell as well. So if it's the right time for him, I think it's great, and I think that the Bruins, judging by their moves, especially with Morgan Geekie and Boquist and so forth, obviously knew that this was going to be something that they really had to fill in some gaps, even though it doesn't come close to Bergeron or Krejci. They needed to fill in some gaps up the middle there. So
yeah. Absolutely.
Seven Chirps Time is sponsored by Lobster Brewing. Lobster Brewing and Tasting Room in downtown Woonsocket, Rhode Island, specializing in small batch ales and lagers, open 7 days a week. Use the coupon code SPORTS to get 10% off your online order. Go to lobsterbrewing.com. Follow them at Lobster Brewing on social media for new beers and events. Chirp 1, where is Patrice Bergeron in all-time Bruins list? Is he top 5, do you think?
Absolutely, top 5.
You have him at 5? I have him at 5.
I think I would put him just because I'll do a little recency bias, because I haven't seen some of the other guys play. Obviously, Orr 1, Bork 2. I might squeeze Bergeron in at 3. I mean, really? I know Zito, you can make it 4 and Milk Schmidt as well. But, a lot of games, won a cup, 6 Selkies, did everything the right way. Lifelong Bruin, Esposito wasn't a lifelong Bruin. I'll throw him in there at 3. Give him a benefit of the doubt with a little of the recency bias there, because I've seen him.
Yeah, because Orr, Bork, none of those guys played their whole career with with Boston. I still have Orr, Busick, Bork, Espo. I probably have Bergeron at 5. I probably have him right in there too, in the top 5. The thing about it is the longevity definitely helps. Kind of like the Kari Yastrzemski of the Bruins. Like he's gonna, the longevity does help in his case for being in the Mount Rushmore of Boston Bruins. And I'd put him right. I'm right on the borderline. I'm having him right there, top 4 to 5 Bruins of all time. I mean, he had almost 1,300 games. He had over 1,000 points. He was a plus like 289 in his career, something ludicrous.
Yeah, in
his career. It just his face-off percentage was like 59% over his career. Like he was just just a really, really, really good, solid player. And the consistency, as you've talked about with NHL players, you have to be consistent. He's the ultimate consistent player. If you look at his all the way through his career. He only had 1 year in 2006 when they were bad that he had a minus. Everything else was plus every single year of his career. So he was terrific.
I think he got votes for the Selke in like 14 seasons or something like that.
Yeah, 14. Yeah, 14. I mean, he got votes for the Lady Byng and the Selke like over a dozen times apiece.
I mean, that's ridiculous to me. That alone.
Right.
So he really just has been, consistent throughout, and it's a credit to him and the way that he's gone about his business. And he really wasn't used in an offensive role early on in his career.
Time. Right. For a long time.
He really wasn't until Julian left and Cassidy came in. He really wasn't used as much as an offensive role. So, just think about what his numbers maybe could have been if he was used a little differently, earlier on in his career.
Sure, and he was essentially a second line center for quite a bit, even when they won the cup. I mean, Krejci was on the top line with Horton and Lucic and so forth. All right, chirp number 2, your best Patrice Bergeron moment.
I mean, there's 2 that stand right out immediately to me, and it's obviously Game 7 against Toronto, tying goal, overtime goal to win it for the Bruins. But I think I'm going shorthanded goal in the cup clincher. For me, that's the one. Great individual effort, doesn't quit on it, and scores the goal that basically puts the game away and delivers the Bruins a long-awaited cup. So to me, that's the one. It's the short.
I agree. When we were watching that, like when he scored that goal crashing into the net, like that's when I thought we're going to win this thing. Holy shit! Like we're going to win the Stanley Cup. Like that, and that was when it first hit me. Like, oh my god! Like, and he scored the first goal on a typical Bergeron, like just pick a spot, like not the greatest shot in the world, but the right spot, accurate, bang, and scores 2 goals in that cup clincher. And of course, 2013, the Maple Leafs, the 2 goals, the tire and the winner, and that epic comeback. That was another one. And of course, the Josh Georges fight, like that to me, when he had the concussion issues early on, like there was some thought that he might not last very long in the league. I mean, he had some serious concussion issues, and then finally, he just lost his mind with Jordan, and he beat the crap out of him. And I think that gained even more respect for him then, like just like in that didn't really happen any other time in his career. But at that point, and it's Canadians and it's the whole thing. But it was the one time where you're like, okay, like this guy can stand up for himself too. So that was another great moment for Bergeron. And of course, now looking back at the end at that Game 7 loss, when he did that sort of twirl around the ice and hugged everybody, like now that makes a lot of sense now. I mean, people kind of created assumptions when it happened, but now it makes perfect sense that he was done. And he knew it was done at the time. All right, chirp 3. Took 6 years to rebuild culture after Ray Bourque left in 2000. Will the culture continue now, do you think?
I think it will, but I think there has to be a continuity to it, and I think there will be, at least in this next little bit here. But because it goes from Chara to Bergeron to Marchand, most likely Marchand, I mean, we'll probably talk about this at some point, to maybe possibly McAvoy. McAvoy is going to be here for a while. And I think, he's learned under the right guys. He was with Chara, he was with Bergeron, he was with Marchand. So as long as they kind of continue that, and there's guys that have been in the room and know what the culture is and know how to kind of get that message out to the rest of the team, I think it will survive. But there's a possibility for some slippage there if some of those guys, they start to have some losing seasons, and then maybe some guys get traded away and whatever, and so there's a possibility that could erode over time. But I think at least right now, in the next 4, 5, 6 years, it's in good hands.
Do you have any hesitation, trepidation about Jim Montgomery now having to? I sound like an asshole, but having to coach now, like having to be the leader of the room now, because he talked about all the time how he didn't even have to. It was so easy with this room, like the leadership. Like Bergeron seemed to be like the guy who policed all that stuff, and Montgomery just kind of worked on hockey. And do you have any? Is there any sort of hesitation that? Are you concerned at all that it could be an issue?
I am concerned about it a little bit, and it's just because I thought in the playoffs against Florida, Montgomery seemed a little over his head, like the moment was a little bit too big for him there. You had talked about it quite a bit on the podcast, and I was a little slower to admit to that, but I do think that he was maybe a little slow to make some changes to adapt. to what Florida was doing. Maybe change the lineup. I thought he went overboard changing the lineup prior to Bergeron. What was it? Prior to Game 3 Game 4 when they had the lead there.
Right.
They had the 2-1 lead, and then they kind of changed all the lines up. It was kind of an odd thing that he did there. So I do have some worries about it, but he did admit to it, which is good. He did say, I made some mistakes there. So I think those are positives that he can say, like, I made some bad choices, or I made some mistakes, and learn from them. And if he can do that, then I think they'll be okay. But there is a little bit of a concern there, but I do like the fact that he admitted to some mistakes and probably will learn and grow from it.
All right, Chirp 4. Patrice, I saw this on Twitter. There was a debate about it. Patrice Bergeron or Sid Crosby?
As much as I love Patrice, it's Sid Crosby.
I know he's a generational player, Crosby.
I mean, it's really not close.
It's not.
It really isn't. I mean, Crosby was considered the best player in the league for a long time. Right. Bergeron, as much as I love the guy, and I love the guy, okay? Right. Don't get me wrong here, people. Sure. Bruins fans, leave me alone. I love the guy, okay? I love him. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He should have his number retired, all of that. But Crosby was the best player in the league for a long time.
For many years.
Many years.
For many years.
He has multiple cups. He's good defensively, not as good as Bergeron, but he's good defensively. He's good offensively. He's feisty. He can pass. He's gets to the dirty areas. He scores goals. He has an unbelievable backhand. He thinks the game well. He does everything you would want your captain to do. So it's Crosby all day long. All day long.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Crosby is closer to Gretzky than he is to Bergeron. Yeah. Like that. I mean, he's a generational player. I mean, his stats are off. And if you want to give me the two-way thing, Crosby's plus minus is over 200 too. Like Crosby is a two-way player. He's a 200-foot player. He's everything. He is one of the best players. You could argue he's the best player in the last 20 years in the NHL from front to back. Like, sure. Jesus Christ. Like, and Bergeron is great, like you said, but see, so with that said, here are a couple of guys who I think there's more of an argument. Patrice Bergeron or Anze Kopitar?
Bergeron.
Now that's Bergeron, but if you look at Kopitar too, he's a very similar player.
Or he is. Absolutely.
Than Bergeron is, and he doesn't get a lot of hype because it's LA, and even though they won cups there, it's still the West Coast, and the West Coast hockey doesn't get a lot of pub and all that stuff. But Kopitar, if he was here, you would be screaming for the statue for Kopitar here, because he's an excellent 200-foot hockey player, and for a long time won 2 or 3 cups with them. Yeah, 100%. So he's really up there as well. And there was another guy I was thinking of as well, and it slips my mind right now. But Kopitar and Bergeron, I think, is more of a debate that you could have as far as who is sort of the next tier guy. And I think if you saw Kopitar's stats, it's very similar.
I mean, one thing about Bergeron, there's very few guys, if any, in the league right now, other than Bergeron, that you could put a defensive highlight reel together and be like, wow, that's right. Like, and watch it and be like, wow, that's unbelievable. Like most times it's offensive highlights. You see Pasternak's one-timer or between the legs goal, McDavid doing end-to-end things, or Ovechkin's one-timer, or whatever the case may be. There's very few guys you can put a defensive highlight reel together about stick positions and nine goals and all these things, checking and being like, well, that's unbelievable. And watch the whole thing and just be like, wow. I mean, he's that good defensively. It's probably him and probably Pavel Datsyuk, and you were like, okay, those guys defensively can really play. Yeah, they can, and that's really his signature, is the fact that he was just such a great defensive. And he could have won 10. He was a geek. Well, people talk. He was a Guy Carbonneau of his time. Like he was, he's that kind of player. Like he could have won 10 Selkies. Yeah, I mean, I think there was some fatigue. There was Bergeron fatigue for the of course, where they weren't voting for him just because they were tired of him winning all the time. Right.
You should name the thing after him. For
Yeah.
God's sakes.
I mean, yeah.
Chart number 5. What is a realistic team expectation with no Bergeron for this season, do you think?
I honestly, with their core, they should still make the playoffs, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay.
They should still make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to be top of the Atlantic. They're certainly not going to be a President's Trophy winner. You know, they won 65 games last year, I believe.
Right.
You know, will they win 45? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll go slightly. I'll say like 47 wins, somewhere in there. So
okay.
That's like
that's 94 plus whatever OT. That's 100 points.
Yeah, so
right there.
Yeah, right around 100 points, and I think they'll make the playoffs.
Okay, yeah. Here's the thing about the Bruins. Like I look at their team, and they still have the thing that they're really going to hang their hat on is their goaltending. They're the best tandem in the league, probably, or close to it. And then their defense is still very good. So those are two, you know, and their special teams, especially their penalty killing, should still be really good. The concern I have is the depth. I mean, you lose a couple of guys, and who the hell steps in? Like, especially at center. Like, you are real thin at center, and you're real thin at scoring wing, like guys who can play offense on wing as well. As you lost Hall and Bertuzzi and so forth. So that's the thing that you know concerns me, is that if there's a couple of injuries for an extended period of time, then they're in trouble. Like they're in trouble, because the Senators just got Tarasenko today. I mean, they're going to be really good. They're going to be able to score the puck like crazy. The Rangers are good. You know, I mean, there's other teams in there. Well, like every team in the league, except for the Flyers and Canadians, are probably, you know, could make the playoffs in that whole Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I mean, even in the division, Detroit got better.
Right.
You know, Buffalo's definitely.
They're better.
Buffalo's coming. They've been better. You know. Ottawa, like you said, just got Tarasenko. I mean, they lost Brinkett, so you know, maybe that's a wash. But you know, they have some young talent there that's really good, and Stützle and Brady Tkachuk. So you know, they'll be better. And then you know, the Tampa Bays and the Floridas and the those teams aren't going anywhere, and the Leafs, obviously. So you know, it's a really tough division. I still think they'll find a way to sneak in, but it definitely won't be easy.
No, it won't be, and I think they will too. And I'm sort of with you, right around the 100-point range, just because defensively, and there's the other thing of failing. That's going to be some sort of motivation too. Like there's going to be some sort of motivation there to say, okay, Bergeron's gone, Krejci's gone. Some people out there think it was kind of a fluke. We still lost in the first round. Maybe there's something to prove there with them. Plus, McAvoy and Marchand are pretty much healthy now. So there's the other thing, starting from the beginning of the year. So, I mean, there are they're going to have a couple of kids like come on at least by mid-season. Like they're going to have a couple of guys play well. They're going to have like Morgan Geeky's going to have to take a step. Like Zaka's going to have to take a little bit of a step again, because now there's a lot more responsibility on him. Marchand's going to have to be healthy and look more like his old self, which is hard to do at his age. DeBrusk, contract year. It's probably a good spot for the Bruins to have him in a contract year. But then what do you do with him? Are you going to resign him? And if you don't, do you have to unload him? So there's some questions there for sure. But I think so too. I think they're probably right in that 6 to 8 seed range where they get in some way in the playoffs. All right, chirp number 6. Patrice Bergeron wins 1 cup. Does that taint him at all? I know some people say it does.
Taint? I don't know about taint, but you feel like there could have been more there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you hold it against the fact that he only won 1. Maybe a little bit.
Right.
Because they should have won in 19. They should have
won in 19. Yeah.
13, that Blackhawks team was a wagon.
They were a wagon. Yeah.
They were a wagon. They won 3 in 5 years or 6 years or whatever. So, had 2 of the best players in the game on the same team. So
right.
They did kind of collapse in game 6 there at home. So I mean, I would say it leaves you wanting a little bit more. Does it taint him? No, I don't think so. Because he is a Stanley Cup champion. He does have 6 Selkies, so I think his resume kind of speaks for itself, but it does leave you wanting a little more, just a little.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at it without bias either way, they went to 3 cup finals.
Yeah, that's
They
pretty
also had the historic season. So
right.
he is a major factor in 3 cup finals appearances, 1 cup, and a historic regular season.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's pretty good. Like, that's I mean, I get the cup thing, and people want to talk about championships. It's totally a team sport, and I wouldn't get too hell bent on one guy taking the brunt of a being termed some sort of loser or a guy who falls short because they didn't win more than a cup. Would it have done him a great deal of service to win that cup in 19? Yes. I mean, you'd have 2 cups.
Yeah.
Like that sort of separates you a little bit. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But Jesus, 3 cup finals. And in 2010, they could have made the final again if Krejci doesn't get hurt.
Sure.
So then the historic season. I mean, Jesus, that's pretty good resume team wise as well, even though people are hell bent on the cup thing.
Sure.
They did face a wagon in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
They should have beaten St. Louis for sure.
Yeah.
They should have gone to the cup final this past year for sure. I mean, that was that they just fell in the face.
Yeah.
But Bergeron was always was hurt too.
Sure.
So, is that really his fault? Like, he tried to come back and play.
Yeah.
So, but I get it, and it is disappointing he didn't win more than one. But I think it's a little harsh to say, Jesus, he's not as great of a player because he didn't win another cup. I mean, that's a little rough.
That's where I am. It's disappointing, but you can't really hold it against them.
No, I don't think so. I really don't.
I think that's where it falls for me.
Yeah. All right, Chirp 7. Who is the new captain, do you think?
Brad Marchand.
You think it's Marchand? Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there's really any 2 ways about it. I think it's him. I think other than Shattenkirk, now I think he's the only other guy that's been on the team that won a cup, right? He's the only one left from 11.
Yeah, because Shattenkirk won one.
Lucic is back. So
Lucic won one.
Lucic is back.
Marchand.
I think it's going to be Marchand. I think it's going to be Marchand and McAvoy, and then they'll alternate maybe the other A between Carlo, Pasta, and maybe Luch, honestly.
Well, that's true. I mean, I guess you could with Luch. I mean, I guess so. If it was me, I'd leave it vacant a year and go with like 3 or 4 A's, they did 22 years ago, whatever it was. I'd do that, and then I'd go the following year. I'd go McAvoy. And I get the Marchand thing, and it's not because of his reputation or anything. It's more the fact that I think he's going to be there 2 more years, and
right.
I don't know. I just think that the core guy, the guy going forward, is McAvoy. I mean, he signed for 8 years.
It is. So to me, it's Marchand for 2 years, and then it's McAvoy. That's what I would do.
Right.
Because I feel like Marchand's been a good soldier.
Right.
Antics aside, he's been a good soldier, and I think he is a leader in the room, and I think he does, with his play, try to drag the Bruins into the fight a lot of times, and I do feel like as he goes, they go for the most part. Right. So I feel like him having that kind of leadership mantle for the next couple of years, I don't think would hurt anything. So to me, it's him. I would say.
Yeah, nobody plays harder than Marchand all the time. I mean, he just plays hard all the time, and hopefully he's healthy enough to have a good year. It'll be interesting to see how he does with like a Coyle or a Zacha. I tend to think you put Zacha with Coyle with Zacha with Marchand and DeBrusk and keep Zacha with Pastrnak and like JVR or somebody. I just think they're one. I feel like they're one forward short of being right back sort of in the mix this year.
I'm with you. Yeah.
One forward short. It's not that far off. Like they're one forward short. So if it was Bertuzzi, I'd feel a hell of a lot better.
Right.
Yeah, I would, because he'd be on the second line.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Morgan Geekie pops and you get something there and you have a pleasant surprise, kind of like Zacha did this year. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. They're a little light and the depth is a little lacking. So if they do have some injuries, especially in the top 6, they're going to be in trouble.
Do you think they'll go? Do you think they'll make a move? Do you think they will try to get Lindholm, or they'll try to get Scheifele or somebody else or another guy that we haven't really had on the radar? I heard talk about Trevor Zegras. Someone put that out there. There's no way the Ducks get rid of Trevor Zegras.
No, the only way you're getting Zegras is if you're giving up, a McAvoy.
Everybody.
So I mean. Come on.
Yeah, you wouldn't even get him with Lowry and Lysell and those guys. No. You'd have to give a roster player.
Yeah. No.
You'd have to give
an all-star roster player.
Yeah, like Mike McAvoy. It would have to be McAvoy. Yeah.
That's not happening. Do I think they would do it? No, I don't think they will. I think they will wait to see if they can get one of those guys in free agency. I don't think they'll trade for somebody now. I think they'll take their medicine this year or do whatever they can this year because they're kind of up against the cap. Mm-hmm. I would like to see them go out and there's still some guys out there who I wouldn't mind seeing them sign on a shorter, a short-term deal, like a 1-year deal. If they can get Frederic and Swayman in at relatively, cheap money and they still have a little extra. There's a guy like Thomas Tatar who I wouldn't mind seeing them.
Sure, I wouldn't mind that.
Wouldn't mind seeing him add. There's a couple other guys out there too that I think would be options for them with a little bit of skill and a little bit of speed. So I think Tatar would be a good guy to add if he's still out there and you could sign him to a short money deal.
Do you think that they think that there's a guy or two like a Merkulov? Do you think that they're ready? Like, do you think that they're not saying it, but you think that they're really going to get every chance and they think that like a Merkulov is going to take a spot?
Maybe. I feel like they think there's some guys like right on the edge, like right on the precipice of like being able to crack the lineup. A guy like Merkulov, maybe even a guy like Poitras, or possibly Lysell will be given every opportunity. I think it is possible Lowry cracks the lineup too if he has a good camp. So there's some guys there, and then the Laukos, I think they like Lauko a pretty, a decent amount. I think he played well down the stretch for them last year. And then a guy like Steen too, possibly, and then you have some of the other guys like McLaughlin and so forth. So I feel like they think maybe one of those guys will take a job though. Yeah.
I feel like they have like 12 bottom 6 guys, like just like fist fighting their way.
Right.
It's going to be an interesting camp because, a guy like a Beecher, a guy like a McLaughlin. I mean, you mentioned Lauko, like people were putting him on the second line on Twitter and Jesus, I don't love that at all. Like I just, whatever, third line at tops. Steen, to me, he's a 4A player. He's another Coleman. He's another guy who just doesn't have enough consistency, like you talk about in the lineup. I'd rather go with a younger guy like a Beecher and a McLaughlin, and McLaughlin's not that young, but just another guy, maybe Toporowski, like a guy that has some upside and is not. I feel like a guy like Steen is past the, it's getting past the line again. Like some others before him. All right, DraftKings Sportsbook, Boston's hometown sportsbook, is live right here in Massachusetts. Bet local on all your favorite sports from the comfort of your own home with DraftKings. To celebrate, all new customers will receive up to $200 in bonus bets when you sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook using code ITR. You can now bet local on money line spreads, props, and more with one of America's top-rated sportsbooks. That's DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and sign up with the code ITR to get up to $200 in bonus bets to use now that mobile sports betting is live in Massachusetts. That's code ITR only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
If you or a loved one is experiencing problems with gambling, call 800-327-5050 or visit helplinema.org to speak with a trained specialist, free and confidentially, 24/7, 21+. Physically present in Mass. Eligibility restrictions apply. Subject to regulatory licensing requirements. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as free bets. Terms at DraftKings.com/MA.
All right, we had not one but 2 polls this week on Twitter. Two polls. And one, one is sort of has to do with Bergeron, and the other does not have anything to do with him.
Okay.
And here is the one that does not. Will the Bruins re-sign Jake DeBrusk, trade him, or let him walk? Those were the three choices.
Okay.
206 votes. 3% say walk, which is good. They should never let him walk.
No.
Trade was at 26%, so roughly 50-ish people said trade, and re-sign was at 71% on re-signing Jake. Do you think they'll re-sign him?
If he has another good year, they will. Yes.
Okay. What's that number look like?
He's at what, 4 right now? 2 times 4?
4 now, yeah. Was it 4 times 6?
If he puts up 20, a 25 goal, 55 to 60 point thing, I think it's 4 times 6.
4 times 6. Yeah, I see 4 times 6 in his future if he does have another, and it'll be interesting to see without Bergeron how it affects DeBrusk. Like, that's the one guy. Marchand will be Marchand. I don't think it's that. I don't think it's going to affect him all that much. Maybe a little, but it's Jake DeBrusk who I'm really keeping an eye on because without Bergeron, I don't know what this guy's going to bring to the table.
I thought that for the large part of last season that DeBrusk and Marchand and maybe DeBrusk a little more because Marchand was still kind of fighting it a little bit here and there, that he really drove that line. I mean, Bergeron made defensive plays and stuff, but DeBrusk really was dangerous, and he was very good defensively.
He's become very good defensively, and I think that's the Bergeron effect.
Yeah, I think it was too, and hopefully that continues because he was really good. He was very responsible. So I think if you put Coyle with Marchand and DeBrusk and left Zacha with Pastrnak, like you said, I think Coyle's responsible defensively, and I think DeBrusk's speed with a revitalized Marchand or a fully healthy Marchand, I think they'll be pretty good together. So I could see DeBrusk having another pretty good year, and I think Coyle will benefit just from playing with those guys. If he smartens up a little bit about shooting the puck and not trying to hold on to it until he, just get the puck to the net and use your big body and so forth. So, I think, we're talking about DeBrusk, but I think Coyle will fit in well with those two guys, and I think DeBrusk will have a good year.
Yeah, it's a contract year, like I said too. So, he needs to. It'll be interesting to see if he would like to go home or near home, or the human element. I don't know if I think he wants to stay. I think he would want to stay. I think he's totally done a 180 on his thoughts on being in Boston. But what is in his mind is if someone throws, is willing to throw some money at him, and he gets word of it, or who knows? Does he go to Edmonton or Calgary or somewhere out there? Or I don't know. I don't know what is in his mind. But I think it is 4 times 6. If he gets 20, that'll be 4 25 goal seasons, or roughly. Yeah. So that's, Jesus, like that's a legit scoring winger.
Yeah, I don't think he ever really wanted to leave. I just don't think he wanted to play for Cassidy.
Right, so he won't be going to Vegas.
Yeah, so I don't think that was ever really the issue. And maybe he doesn't want to play closer to home. Maybe he wants to be closer to Edmonton. His dad does, TV out there, and his family's still out there, I think, for the most part. So, and Boston's, the other side of the, continent. So maybe he does want to be a little closer to home. We'll see. But I think if he has another good year, I think the Bruins will try to keep him. But it'll be, we'll see what Jake thinks about it.
I wonder if that Nugent Hopkins DeBrusk thing comes back up at some point. That could be.
I'm a little leery of him just because.
Yeah, I know. You've mentioned the power play points and the fact he's playing with Jesus Christ.
He's playing with Draisaitl and McDavid.
Yeah.
He had 100 points, but he had 70 points on the power play. Jesus Christ! If he's taking face-offs, all you got to do is win the draw to McDavid, and then
tapping it in,
and he scores.
Yeah. Right?
Or stand at your own blue line and pass
Right.
to McDavid, who's streaking up ice with full speed. He goes by 3 guys and scores. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
there's Nugent Hopkins with another assist. You know,
So you're saying he's 1990 Rob Brown with the Penguins?
Yeah,
like
he did the same
yeah.
thing every time.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I want to know like how many, and you could look it up, I'm sure, but like how many high danger passes does he have? How many slot passes does he have? Like, what is he really driving offense, or is he just, you know, benefiting
secondary assists
from playing with one of the greatest players to ever play? You know, so any guys that play with, you know, McDavid or Draisaitl, I'm leery of you know, taking those guys on my team because we don't have Draisaitl or McDavid.
No.
So,
no, you're right. All right. Second poll was who is your new captain? Here are the selections: Charlie McAvoy, Brad Marchand, David Pastrnak, Brandon Carlo. 298 votes. 3% had Brando as the new captain. 3%.
Well, I mean, he could get an A.
He could get I think he will get an A. I mean, I think he could.
He might. I mean, he's been around a long time. He's steady. Yeah. He's their fucking NHLPA rep or whatever.
I know. Yeah. Well, that's the other thing.
Like the league office stuff. So he knows how to lead. He knows how to manage personalities. So yeah, I could see him. I mean, I could see him do. He seems kind of like a quiet guy. So maybe it's more of like a lead by example thing. And if you have McAvoy back there, you already have an A on the defense. So, you know, I don't know, but yeah.
Almost 500 games for Brandon.
Yeah. I mean, he was really, tell you what, he was he's probably the best defenseman.
I thought he was the best
in the Panthers series. I really did.
And believe me,
I shit on him all they want.
Yeah,
but
and I do too.
He was really good in that series.
And I do too. And he's he's a guy who has to play a lot to get a rhythm. I mean, that's just he gets rusty if he misses time. And he is the total guy that everybody shits on because he doesn't play as physically as they want. So they will never give him a break. But I'm telling you.
And he doesn't do as much offensively as other guys.
And he does it right. So he's not sexy. He's not a sexy defenseman. Right, exactly. But I'm telling you right now, he was friggin', you know, Gord Kluzak out there.
Yeah, he was good. He was a shutdown guy. He was very good in that series. Very good.
He was. Yeah, he was very good. All right, the third to highest was David Pastrnak at 13%. And then Charlie McAvoy at 36%, Brad Marchand at 48%. So about 150 people thought that Brad Marchand would be the new captain of your Boston Bruins.
Yeah,
you do too.
Yeah, that voting, that's how I imagined it would go. That just in that exact order. I honestly think Carlo would make a better captain than Pastrnak is. I just don't think Pastrnak, as much as he has a great personality and a flair and he's terrific offensively, I just don't see him being the kind of leader for the full team because I just don't think he's 100% invested all the time. I just don't. I don't think he competes as hard on pucks sometimes. I think he floats a little bit here and there. So that's not your captain. That's not.
I think that Pastrnak would say that he's not captain material either. I mean, I think he's self-aware enough.
Yeah, I think. I don't want to be a captain. Out of the leadership group, and he is.
He is
because he's one of the older guys, and he produces and he scores, and he expects to score and he expects to produce and help the team win in that way. Mm-hmm. So I mean, he does put pressure on himself, and you know, to do those things and to be the goal scorer for the team and the guy that's going to lead them in points and so forth. So you know, he is part of the leadership core, but he's not. I don't think he's a captain.
No, I don't think so either. I guess you're right. I think it'll be Marchand. I still think McAvoy. I'd have McAvoy be the choice, but what difference does it make, really? I don't even know, you know, what the captains do.
Yeah, I mean, they'll both be part of the leadership group, and I think McAvoy's captaincy down the line. So, I mean, I think we probably agree. It's just, you know, whether or not, you know, my team gets it first, or you know, they vacate it for a little bit, or what. But eventually, it will be McAvoy.
All right, so now the next things coming up are Trent Frederic and Jeremy Swayman RFA arbitration cases. July 30 for Swayman, as we record, 3 days away, and crickets. I think this is going.
I hope it doesn't.
I think it is. I mean, you looked at who was the goaltender just got three and a half a year that was sort of similar to Swayman. Like that's sort of and that's 3.5 is too much for the Bruins right now. You know, with Frederic coming into it, probably a 1.5. I mean, you can't spend $5 million right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think Swayman's probably asking for 4, and the Bruins are probably coming in at like, 2.5.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
3.
Yeah.
So I mean, hopefully.
And again, if I'm Swayman, I go to the case saying that guy just got 3 something,
and I'm better.
I'm going.
Yeah,
dude.
Sure. Sure. But I mean, the Bruins have to explain it to him like, look, we want you on our long-term plans. You are the goalie of the future for us. We are up against the cap. The cap will expand next year. Take a 1 or a 2 year deal now for shorter money, and we will reward you down the line. That's how they have to sell it to him. And we'll see if he accepts that. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But if the Bruins kind of need him to. So
they do. They
need Frederic to do the same thing. They need to be like, look, Freddie, we love you. You're coming off a career year. We see you as, a middle six, winger, center combination. You had your best goal scoring year of your career, but we need you to take a little less this year because we're up against it. And then, down the line, we'll take care of you.
Do you think? But do you think that the hometown discounts that they've had the luxury of having from Bergeron to Marchand to Pastrnak the first time, like all those, do you think that doesn't happen anymore?
No,
like it just doesn't.
No, so, I feel like the younger players are just like, I need to get mine when I
get my paid. I gotta get paid. Yeah. And if I'm Swayman, I'm like, I don't blame him. Like, I don't know why he would take $2 million.
I don't blame him at all
this year.
It's just when it gets to arbitration, it's ugly.
Like, it is
ugly because the team is saying, this guy sucks. The team brings up all the stats that Swayman's bad at. Oh, he can't handle the puck.
Right. You have to demean him.
Yeah. He's bad to justify winning the arbitration case. So it always ends badly. It creates animosity between the team and the player. Yeah. So it behooves all parties involved to just get the damn thing settled ahead of time, But like you said, if I'm Swayman, I'm taking the team to the mat because I know I have a pretty good chance that I'm going to win this thing.
Yeah. He is. And to me, I think it would have been done by now. I think it's going. And Freddie, I'm a little surprised about. I thought that thing would get done. Like Freddie doesn't have a lot of leverage. No. Like he had a good year with Taylor Hall parked on his other wing. Like I don't know if Frederic's going to score 10 goals next year. I have no idea. And I don't know if anybody could say that with confidence. I mean, there's a lot of Freddie fans out there who, have their schmenza in the air when he gets out there. Like, I get it. But I just don't have any confidence. I can't say with confidence or guarantee that he's going to score double-digit goals this year. With the roster they have, I don't know.
I know, right? I mean, was that a product of them having really good third line depth and playing with really good players, or was he really good and he's elevating his game? We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. So I thought that thing would get done sooner. Like I thought that would be 1.7, like whatever, something.
Yeah, me too.
I thought it was, but it doesn't look like it.
1.5 to 1.75 somewhere in there.
That doesn't look like it.
And I was hoping that Swayman would be, right around 3, but it looks like, with this other goalie signing for 3.5, that he should get at least that.
Well, I'm telling you, if these two both go and it's $5.5, $6 million, like that's a problem.
No,
like, I don't have that money.
Well, they do, right? They have 6 and change.
Well, they have like 6, but they have no wiggle room at all.
Right.
Like, they don't. So I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it being 6. I could see Swayman getting 4 and Freddie getting 2. Sure, absolutely, I could see that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And if that happens, I think you have to ship Forward out for a can of peas. Like you have to just dump him for the future considerations thing. Like you just because that's $3 million out. You have to find someone to take his $3 million. You have to because it's going to be interesting. I mean, we're 3 and 5 days away from those two, and I don't see it getting done ahead of time. All right, then rookie camp comes up September 13th to the 18th. Prospect Challenge schedule came out in Buffalo. Bruins have done this a few years in a row now.
Yeah.
They will play Montreal on the 15th of September, Friday. Saturday, the next day against they'll play Pittsburgh on Friday, Montreal on Saturday, and then on Monday they'll play New Jersey. And that roster usually comes out about a week or so before, as it did last year. So we'll see who's on that Prospect Challenge roster. I'd like to see like Harrison. I'd like to see like everybody and anybody, like all of them. And you can get tickets for $10 if you're in Buffalo. I mean, I don't know why you'd be there, but they're $10 a piece. You know, I mean, I'd like to say that's a good take, but I'm not 100%.
Tell you what, if we weren't in Jamaica, I'd consider going.
Yeah, I consider go to Buffalo, Jamaica. I think it's close.
Bruins Benders is going to be in Jamaica during the Prospect Challenge, so we'll be watching from the swim up bar.
Yeah, we're going to be there. Our last 2 days there are the first 2 games of the
Friday and Saturday.
Challenge. Yeah, sure. The last 2 days in Jamaica, man. So we will be remote.
We'll be drinking and watching the Bruins and the Penguins and the Bruins and Canadians go at it.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then training camp opens September the 20th, and it's kind of a fascinating training camp coming up. I mean, there's a lot of young guys. There's some spots available. There's a lot of competition, especially the bottom 6.
Sure.
There's a lot going on there, so we will see. And that'll do it for this episode of the Bruins Benders podcast. We are sad to see Patrice Bergeron go, but it was a great career, many great memories that he gave us as Bruins fans, one of the greats of all time, and we will miss him. And we will talk to everybody again next week. Thanks for listening. Go Bruins.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Black Betty, bam lamb, whoa, Black Betty, bam lamb, back